I can't marry nobody like you. The words sliced through the sacred silence, followed by the shriek of a microphone hitting the floor. Richard Hale, my groom, stood with a sneer as the laughter 1,000 wealthy guests washed over me. I remained frozen in my simple A-line satin gown, a lone island of humiliation. I was the orphan, the charity case, the stain on their perfect picture. But as the whispers turned to jeers, a deep, bone-rattling vibration began, shaking the ancient church's foundation. Before I show you exactly what stormed through those oak doors, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. Now, let's get into it. The scene was set inside a Gothic stone cathedral with soaring vaulted ceilings that seemed to amplify every cruel snicker. The air, thick with the scent of old wood, incense, and the cool dampness of rain-soaked stone, felt heavy in my lungs. My simple satin wedding dress, devoid of any jewels or lace, was a deliberate choice, a reflection of a life lived without frills. It felt honest. But here, under the kaleidoscopic light filtering through the stained glass windows, it was just another piece of evidence for the prosecution. My auburn hair was swept into a simple chignon, revealing a face free of makeup, now flushed with a raw, burning shame. I didn't look at Richard. I didn't need to. I could feel the heat of his disgust from across the altar. Instead, my gaze drifted to a depiction of a saint in the window above, his face serene and forgiving. I felt no such grace here. The whispers were relentless. An orphan, I heard a woman in a Chanel suit murmur. How did someone like her even get this far? Her companion, a man whose Rolex gleamed with every gesture, chuckled darkly. Richard must have been slumming it. A little charity project before finding a real wife. My fingers tightened on the stems of my white calla lily bouquet. The flowers were simple, elegant, and resilient, everything I aspired to be. Their stems were sturdy in my hand, a small anchor in a sea of contempt. I had learned discipline from a life that gave no handouts. My parents, gone so long ago, had left me with nothing but a spine of steel. But in this moment, it felt as if the entire world was trying to snap it. I wouldn't cry. Not here. My training wouldn't allow it. The night before at the pre-wedding party had been the first volley. It was held at the Hale family's estate, a stark, minimalist mansion of glass and steel perched over the coast. Its cold architecture a perfect reflection of its inhabitants. I wore a simple gray sheath dress, no jewelry, my hair down but tidy. I was a sparrow in a cage of peacocks, and they never let me forget it. Vanessa, Richard's ex-girlfriend, a statuesque blonde in a glittering gold dress, made a show of approaching me. "You must be so thrilled," she'd said, her voice dripping with condescending sweetness. "Marrying into the Hale dynasty. It's a literal fairy tale for someone with your background." The circle of friends around her tittered in agreement. I met her gaze, my expression unreadable. "A fairy tale is only necessary," I replied, my voice quiet but clear, "when you're trying to escape reality." Vanessa's smile faltered, her perfectly sculpted mask cracking for just a second before she retreated in her clique, muttering about my audacity. Later, Richard's mother, Margaret Hale, a woman whose pearl necklace seemed to be a choker of judgment, cornered me by the floor-to-ceiling windows. "My son has a reputation to uphold. Elena," she hissed, her voice low and sharp. "This marriage is an opportunity for you, not a right. Don't for a second think your position is secure." I gave a single, slight nod, not of agreement, but of acknowledgement. Her lips thinned into a bloodless line, and she swept away, her heels clicking on the polished concrete like a ticking clock. The final assault came from a leering business associate of the Hales, his breath thick with bourbon. He trapped me near a balcony, his bulk blocking my exit. "You're a cute little thing," he slurred, leaning in too close. "But you're way out of your league. Stick to your own kind, sweetheart, and you won't get shattered." The words were a slap, but my response was ice. I stepped back, creating space, my eyes locking onto his. "My kind?" I asked, my voice dangerously soft. "The kind that doesn't need to bloat their ego with cheap whiskey and cheaper threats?" He blinked, his drunken bravado deflating, and stumbled away. I had won the small battles, but standing at the altar now, it was clear I had lost the war. I had believed in Richard, or at least in the man I thought he was. He pursued me with a gentle charm that felt like a warm light after a long winter. He claimed to love my simplicity, my strength, the fact that I didn't play games. But his words from the previous night on the mansion's balcony now echoed with chilling clarity. "There's a lot of pressure on me, Elena," he had said, his voice tight, refusing to meet my eyes. "My family, they have certain expectations. I just need you to understand that." I had nodded, attributing it to pre-wedding jitters. I had trusted the illusion. Now, I was paying the price for that trust, alone in an arena of 1,000 judges who had already declared me guilty. But something else had happened the night before, something that had unsettled me far more than the Hale's cold disdain. After I'd returned to my small, modest apartment, a black, unmarked SUV had idled at the curb, its engine a low, threatening growl in the quiet street. A man in a dark coat, his face lost in the shadows, stepped out. He didn't say my name. He simply handed me a stiff manila envelope. "You'll need this tomorrow." His voice was unnaturally flat, almost synthetic. The truth has a way of demanding its moment. Inside was a single, faded Polaroid photo, its edges worn soft with time. It showed a much younger me, face smudged with dirt and determination, wearing a Marine Corps uniform, standing with my unit. My breath hitched. I had buried that life, locked it away in a steel box in my mind after the mission that had shattered me and taken everything I held dear. The man was gone before I could form a question, the SUV melting back into the night as silently as it had arrived. I hadn't slept. The photo felt like a brand on my nightstand. Next to it lay a small, worn dog tag I hadn't touched in 7 years. My fingers brushed against the cool metal, and for a moment, the immense weight of that former life threatened to crush me. I could almost smell the smoke and feel the grit of the sand. But I pushed it down, tucking the tag away. I had chosen this new life, this quiet, anonymous existence. I had walked into the church that morning hoping the photo was just a ghost from the past, not an omen of a battle to come. Back in the present, the humiliation was escalating. The photographer hired for the wedding, a young man with a hungry look in his eyes, was now circling me like a vulture. "This is gold," he exclaimed to his assistant, his camera clicking furiously. "The nobody bride, ditched at the altar. Front page, for sure." The crowd, emboldened, grew louder. Richard, seeing he had their support, pointed a trembling finger at me. "She has no name, no family, no standing," he repeated, his voice cracking with a mix of panic and pathetic self-righteousness. Then, Senator Evelyn Reed rose from her seat in the front pew. A political ally of the Hale family, she was a formidable figure in a striking crimson power suit, her black bob haircut sharp as an axe. Her voice, smooth and venomous, cut through the noise. "A failed soldier. Isn't that what you are, Elena?" she projected, a cruel smile on her lips. The accusation landed, and the crowd murmured with renewed interest. "I heard you were discharged. If you were such a hero, why did you leave the military? Perhaps you deserted?" Richard seized on it. "A hero? Please, it's all a pathetic act." The cameras flashed, their lights blinding. My hands, still holding the bouquet, trembled, but my feet were planted. I was a rock in a raging river, and I would not be moved. I would not let them see me break. Just as Senator Reed's accusation hung in the air, the vibration returned, stronger this time. It wasn't just in the floor, it was in the air in my bones. It was a low-frequency hum that grew into a deafening roar of powerful engines. The massive, ancient oak doors of the cathedral burst inward with a deafening crack, slamming against the stone walls. The crowd gasped as one, turning to see a sight that defied all logic. 100 sleek, black, government-spec SUVs had formed a perimeter around the church lawn. Above, the rhythmic thumping of helicopter blades chopped the air, their shadows dancing madly through the stained glass. Then they came, pouring through the shattered doorway, not as a mob, but as a disciplined, flowing river of tactical green. 1,000 United States Marines in full combat gear moved with a terrifying silence and precision, their boots barely making a sound on the marble floor. They fanned out, securing the perimeter with an efficiency that was both beautiful and chilling. The guests were frozen in a state of shock and fear. Purses were clutched, champagne flutes were dropped, and the arrogant smirks were replaced with slack-jawed terror. At the head of the formation, a man strode forward, parting the sea of soldiers like a blade. He was tall, with salt and pepper hair and a shallow scar that traced his jawline. His uniform was immaculate, adorned with the decorations of a lifetime of service. His eyes, the color of storm clouds, were locked on me. He ignored Richard. He ignored the senator. He ignored everyone. He stopped 3 feet in front of me, his presence sucking all the air out of the room. He executed a perfect salute. Colonel Marquez, his voice was a clear, steady baritone that needed no microphone. Commander Marcus Thorne, it's time you reclaimed your honor. My bouquet slipped from my nerveless fingers, the white calla lilies scattering on the cold floor. Coronel, the name echoed in the cavernous silence. It was a ghost I had tried to outrun for 7 long years. Richard's face had drained of all color, his mouth hanging open as he stared at me, then at the 1,000 soldiers standing at attention. Vanessa's smirk was gone, replaced by a mask of horrified confusion. Senator Reed's eyes narrowed, her hand tightening on her clutch. I looked at Commander Thorne, my gaze steady, and gave a single, sharp nod. It was not surrender. It was acceptance. A young Marine, barely out of his teens, broke from the ranks. His hands trembled slightly as he approached, holding a sealed envelope. His eyes were fixed on me with an expression of pure awe. "Ma'am," he said, his voice cracking with emotion. "You don't know me, but you saved my brother's life in the Al-Qadir ambush." He told me. He said you carried him 2 miles under constant enemy fire. He offered me the envelope. I took it, my fingers brushing his. He stepped back, his salute the sharpest I had ever seen. In perfect unison, every other Marine in the church echoed it, a silent, powerful wave of respect. The whispers stopped. Thorne turned to the stunned audience. "You have all been passing judgment on a woman you know nothing about." He held up a thick, worn folder stamped with classified markings. "This is the truth about Colonel Elena Marquez." He opened it. 7 years ago, she led a special operations unit into a catastrophic ambush. Against all odds, she saved over 100 soldiers, personally risking her life a dozen times to pull her men out of hell. But the official report was buried. The mission was labeled a failure, and her name was erased to protect a traitor's lies. His gaze shifted, landing squarely on the senator. "You gave the order to bury this report, didn't you, Senator Reed?" The silence in the cathedral was absolute, a heavy blanket of disbelief and dawning horror. All eyes swung from Commander Thorne to Senator Reed, who stood frozen, her face a pale, brittle mask. She had built a career on a foundation of patriotism, but now that foundation was cracking beneath her feet. This is an outrage," she finally stammered, her voice lacking its usual authority. "This is a political stunt. This woman is a disgrace, a failed soldier." "Hiding," I said, my voice cutting through her desperate denial. It was the first time I had spoken at length, and it was not loud, but it carried to every corner of the church. Or just living a life that doesn't require your validation. I looked at the folder Thorne held. A memory, sharp and unwelcome, flashed behind my eyes. The smell of smoke and fear, the relentless shriek of gunfire, the weight of a wounded man on my back. The night I had been promised my name would be honored, and had instead watched it be erased. The night I lost everything. "There's more," Thorne's voice boomed, pulling me back to the present. He held up a document from the folder. The order to bury Colonel Marquez's mission and sacrifice her career came directly from then Undersecretary Reed. She profited from defense contracts tied to the failure of that mission. Millions of dollars went into her pocket while a true hero's name was dragged through the mud. The crowd erupted in a cacophony of gasps and angry murmurs. The truth was a tidal wave, and it was washing away all the lies. Richard, desperate to regain some semblance of control, tried one last, pathetic time. "No matter who you are, you're still an orphan," he shrieked, his voice shrill with panic. "No one will ever truly love you." But his words were empty now, lost in the storm of revelation. Commander Thorne ignored him completely. He turned to the Marines. "Honor her." In a single, thunderous motion, 1,000 men and women snapped to attention. An aide stepped forward, presenting a velvet box to Thorne. He opened it. Resting inside was the Medal of Honor, its blue ribbon stark against the dark velvet, the gold star gleaming in the fractured light of the church. He took it and turned to me. "This was yours 7 years ago, Colonel." They hid it. No more. My hands trembled as I accepted it. It was heavy, a weight of sacrifice, pain, and vindication. I held it up for all to see. "I don't need your false love, Richard," I said, my voice ringing with newfound strength. "I already have a family. A family of brothers and sisters who would never abandon me." The Marines roared their approval, the sound shaking the very stones of the ancient building. But just as the applause echoed, a figure emerged from one of the SUVs outside. A soldier, his face obscured by a tactical mask, walked steadily down the aisle. The crowd watched, confused, as he approached me. He stopped, his movements deliberate, and removed the mask. The face was older, scarred, but it was a face I had seen every night in my dreams for 7 years. My breath left me in a rush, my hands dropping to my sides. The metal slipped, but Thorne caught it just in time. The man knelt, taking my hand in his. "I never left you, Elena," he said, his voice raw with emotion. "I just had to finish the mission." The crowd gasped. It was Daniel. My fiancé, killed in action 7 years ago. "Daniel," I whispered, tears finally breaking free, tracing paths of clean salt on my dusty soul. "I was deep undercover," he explained, his thumb tracing circles on my hand. "They declare me dead to keep you safe. But I never stopped fighting my way back to you." The consequences for the guilty were swift. Senator Reed was escorted out in handcuffs, her political career ending on the evening news. Richard's family disowned him, their ambitions shattered. Vanessa's sponsors dropped her overnight. The guests who had mocked me vanished into the crowd, their faces burning with shame. I didn't watch them go. My world had narrowed to the man kneeling before me. Daniel stood and pinned the Medal of Honor to my simple satin dress. The Marines formed an honor guard as we walked down the aisle together, not as a bride abandoned, but as a woman whole again, stepping out of the shadows and into the sun. Elena's story is a powerful reminder that true worth isn't defined by wealth, status, or the opinions of a scornful crowd. It's forged in the fires of adversity, measured by integrity, and revealed in moments of unbreakable courage. It teaches us that honor is not something that can be given or taken away by others. It is earned in the silent battles we fight and the sacrifices we make when no one is watching. Have you ever been underestimated or judged based on where you come from? What would you have done if you were a guest in that church, watching it all unfold? And do you think true honor is something you're born with, or something you must build for yourself, piece by painful piece? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear your perspective. If this story about resilience, justice, and the power of truth resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories that uncover the heroes among us. Share this with someone who has faced their own battles and refused to back down. We read every single comment, and your stories matter to us. More stories about silent heroes and shocking twists of fate are waiting for you on your screen. Watch those next, and we'll see you tomorrow with another story that will make you question everything you thought you knew.